Welcome to the Luxury Rental Blueprint Podcast, your ultimate guide to creating stunning vacation and corporate rental spaces. Join us as we unveil the secrets to boosting revenue and elevating guest experiences through high-quality design and luxurious amenities. Whether you're a seasoned property investor or just starting out, on this podcast, we aim to provide you with the tools and insights you need to build your own 5-star rental empire. Hello, welcome to the Luxury Rental Blueprint Podcast. I'm your host, Breanna Williams. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. I was able to meet her at the Midterm Rental Summit a few months ago, and I'm just blown away with what it is that she's working on providing for the midterm rental space. So without further ado, let me introduce you. I'll give you a little information here about our guest. Our guest today is Vivian Yip with Hestia. And after 2 decades of navigating the corporate world, Vivian and her partner, James, decided it was time to break free from the 9-to-5. It was then that they dove into the exciting world of house flipping, determined to build up their cash reserves and secure a future with financial freedom. In 2021, after an unexpected life event left her feeling like she lost control of her own life, Vivian left her role at Apple and dove headfirst into the midterm rental space. Armed with the power of real estate investing and a knack for the midterm rental game, Vivian opened not 1, not 2, but 6 midterm rentals serving the Austin, Texas market. Not only did she manage her own 6 properties, but she also ran a property management company portfolio of 20 additional properties. Now, I guess if we know Vivian, we know that's just not enough. So she then launched Hestia, which is a midterm rental brand that guests and corporations can rely on time and time again. The Hestia brand is a carefully curated collection of furnished monthly rentals serving the temporary housing space across the world. So welcome, Vivian. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks so much for having me. Wow, that was quite an intro. I really appreciate that. And across the world is not yet, but definitely on my radar.
Heading there. Oh, it'll get there. It'll get there without a doubt. I understand that is part of your vision for this company. So I think it's important to know, I mean, you have some big aspirations, not only for yourself, but for the midterm rental space in general. And that's what we're all about here, is providing top-notch guest experiences. That's what the Luxury Rental Blueprint's all about, setting those standards. And Hestia is doing a great job at it. So, I mean, why don't you just let us know, share with us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in the midterm rental space.
Sure. So as you introduced me, I'm Vivian Yip. I live in Austin, Texas. I've been married for 15 years this year, and I have 2 kids, 14 and 12-year-old. And every day I just, work through my midterm rental business. So Hestia is the brand that I'm working on, but the marketplace that is going to be launched in about 6 weeks or so is Corporate Rentals USA. It's CREW for short. And it's just going to be a great place for people to find midterm rentals, book them easily, and for hosts and guests to have assurance that they can find something without hefty security deposits, and for owners to feel confident about taking direct bookings. So I'm going to share more about that later as we continue to bake that out. It's not fully baked yet, but I'm really excited. The future is scary because if your dreams aren't big enough to make you want to throw up, they're not big enough.
I like that. That's a really good one.
There are days where I think about where I think this business is going to be, and I get sick to my stomach because I'm afraid to fail. But I just keep doing and working on what I wanted, like on building the business little bit by little bit. And I believe that in the end, we're going to build out not only a wonderful marketplace for advertising and launching midterm rentals, but also building out the Hestia brand, who is, by the way, the Greek goddess of hospitality, hearth, and home, and really truly engaging in client experiences and helping them rebuild their lives when they're in transition, whether it's from relocating or damage from their home, insurance, fire, whatever it is.
That's awesome. So tell me about how your vision for Hestia came to be and really what that entails.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I have 6 of my own midterm rentals, and I realized that people came to know me for having these extended stay homes. And then I came to realize that I'm very protective of my time. I don't really want to own property more than 15 minutes away from where I live. Call me the lazy landlord if you want to. But at the end of the day, like, do I really want to drive 45 minutes across town to go and deal with something small? I don't. And this is a hospitality business. I take a lot of pride in being responsive. And it wasn't fitting in my own personal buy box to buy things halfway across the city. So I thought, what if I built a network? Right? If I built a network of other hosts that do a great job, that provide a similar hospitality experience, I would feel better if I, transferred those referrals over to someone that I like, know, and trust. And that's when I thought, well, why don't I build a brand of a network, a branded network where we all have the same kind of goals of hospitality. We all provide single family spaces. We're all pet friendly. We have the right amenities. If we could standardize that and create a brand, then that way someone sees the Hestia name, whether it's on Airbnb or on Zillow or whatever, then they put in their mind, it's free rent in their head, that Hestia is single family homes, that it's pet friendly, it is for extended stays, and they have a great host. If we have those, it's like a brand value. If you think about Hilton or Starbucks or whatever, wherever you go, you get a similar experience. And that's why branding is really important, because we're so focused on short-term rentals in most of these furnished spaces that there should be a distinguishing brand for midterm rentals. That makes sense?
It totally does. I am 100% on board. My friend and I have a meetup that's in our area, and that is exactly what we talked about when we started our meetup. Is we want to help the hosts get more bookings, right? We want them to fill their properties. We want everybody to be successful, but at the same time, we want people to know that if we're recommending a property, there's a standard there. There's an expectation. So I 100% agree. I only take clients who are willing to, who are going to put guest satisfaction at the forefront of all decision making, and who are willing to go the extra mile in their design and in their, setup of their property to ensure that guest satisfaction is going to be met. So it's exactly in line, I think, with what Hestia is doing. Yeah. What are some of the amenities that Hestia requires of its properties?
Yeah, that's a great question. With midterm rentals, our client avatar and our client needs are really different than short-term rentals. So number one, if I'm going to sign up and stay somewhere for 60 days, 90 days or more, I want to make sure that I'm having a great sleep experience. So having nice, comfortable, clean beds and good linens is number one. Number two, considering that 8 million Americans have sleep apnea and a lot of them have CPAP machines, it's really important that every bedroom has nightstands on each side of the table. Number three, we're not living out of suitcases anymore. If you think about short-term rentals, people are staying for a weekend. They might never unpack their things before they leave. But in a midterm rental, we require dressers in every bedroom. That way they have somewhere to put their knickers and their socks, that it's not just, they're not living out of a suitcase. And of course, tons of hangers. And then finally, a fully stocked kitchen. I've stayed in short-term rentals before where people aren't there to cook. People might be there to make just simple breakfast, but in a midterm rental, people are there to live. So a fully stocked kitchen includes casseroles. It includes salad bowls and maybe even a salad spinner, air fryer. Some people go the extra mile and put in a KitchenAid mixer, right? So there's a different experience that we need to curate in the midterm rental space.
I completely agree with you. I always think
one more thing. It's easy parking and laundry.
Oh, yes.
I can't tell you how many times I've visited a short-term rental where the laundry was only available for use for someone that is staying for a month at a time, or they couldn't park because the owner had stuff in the garage that was their own personal belongings. So for us, we really want to make sure that Hestia homes are truly homes designed for extended stays where the guests can feel like it's their place.
I love that. So do you require garage access, or do you just require that there's parking available, for instance, if it was in the driveway?
We don't have a necessarily requirement that they can park inside a garage because some properties just have a carport. But there will be times where the guest is touring the property and they'll say, well, I need to park in a garage. And if the garage is not available, then I can't really help them with that. So the requirement is easy parking, but not necessarily in home parking.
Got it. Okay, wonderful. And these, what the amenities that you're describing to me are practical amenities. I mean, these are things that people need. So if you just think through how somebody's going to use this space, living in it, not just coming for 2 to 3 days or even a week. If somebody's going to live in this space, you start to think through what they're going to use, what they need, what's convenient for them. You'll really think through some of those practical amenities. So you'll start to understand why a bedside lamp is necessary. You need lighting there because people are getting up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, or they might want to read a book in bed and they don't want a bright light overhead with their partners, unable to sleep. So, and then even thinking through like, yes, it is going to be convenient to have a television in the primary bedroom. Are there kids coming into this property? Do we need to include some items that make things convenient for kids? Like, for instance, if you do know that you're in an area where you will be housing and welcoming families, then you need to think through, I'm going to need at least one tub. I can't have all walk-in showers because how are my guests going to bathe their, 2 and 3 year olds? You just have to think through these practical things. So that's 100%. I totally agree with that. Are there any?
So I don't mandate the tub thing, but definitely it's a convenience that a lot of families with younger children want.
Yes, I agree. And it's not for everybody. I mean, that's pretty guest specific. So I could understand why Hestia wouldn't necessarily mandate something like that. With all of the items that you do require to be part of the Hestia brand, how do you ensure that the properties have these items?
That's a really good question. So the idea behind Hestia is to bridge the gap between Airbnb homes and corporate housing standards. And that's really where there's a lot of gaps, because a lot of corporate housing companies, they won't have their clients book Airbnbs because they don't trust them. Either the hosts are irresponsive, or they don't have the right amenities, or the place is dirty when they show up, all that stuff, right? So we actually have a program now that every Hestia home gets an in-person inspection, no matter where they are in America.
Interesting.
So when they sign on, they're really paying for the certification program. And once they pass the certification, like the inspector is going to go through the property. We're checking that the fans are clean, that the fans work, the dishwasher works, the garbage disposal works, the washer and dryers both turn on, that the AC cools and the heat heats. These are things that a lot of people take for granted, but we need to ensure that we have a quality assurance program. So before we go live with a Hestia home, that inspection goes on, and then that helps us qualify and ensure that the property is what they advertise it to be to us.
Love that. I love that. And if I'm not mistaken, as of right now, with United Corporate Rentals not quite being full scale yet, are you posting the Hestia properties on United Corporate Rentals, or is it on its own Hestia platform? How does that work?
It's actually Corporate Rentals USA.
I'm so sorry.
So, it's okay. So Corporate Rentals USA is the platform, kind of like if you think about Expedia.com or Booking.com, that's the marketplace. And then Hestia is the namesake brand. So right now, you can find Hestia homes on Corporate Rentals USA, but in the next 6 weeks or so, we're going to start rolling out and allowing other brands to be on there as well. Hestia is just that true distinction of that single family home space, premium quality, etc.
Got it. That's wonderful. Go ahead.
Sorry, we encourage those Hestia hosts that once they get their certification, that they're going to put that certificate on their Airbnb listing, on their Zillow listing, on their Furnish Finder listing. Because at the end of the day, like having done this long enough, I know that the businesses that are using midterm rentals, they're going to be all over the place. So having that Hestia name standing behind your property is going to be helpful, because I'm having those discussions with the companies, with the insurance companies, and letting them know, to look for the Hestia name.
Absolutely. That makes total sense. Now, from that perspective of those practical amenities, I just want to jump back just a little bit. When you were thinking about the items that are required, did you just go through and say, these are the things that worked in the properties that I put together? Or did you have a different approach to that? Was it just as simple as like, let me think about what's necessary? Or did you have data to kind of back up, yes, this really worked in our properties?
Yeah, there's actually, corporate housing is not new. It's been around for a long time. So there are standards out there. So I took a few lists that I received from other corporate housing companies, and I took their standards and I put them into the single family home space. So what that means is a lot of these corporate housing companies, they've only traditionally rented apartments. So their amenities might include a mailbox and a mailbox key and a garage door opener for a bigger parking lot situation. For us, we're focusing on checking for fully fenced backyards and if the entrance is safe, if the neighborhood is safe. So those are the kind of things we're looking for. So we've taken the best practices from corporate housing and into the single family home space. I didn't just make it up.
That makes sense. Got it. That makes sense. Well, I know that you had some success with your initial properties. Did you design your original properties yourself, or did you bring a professional in to do the design work?
I did my own design work. Yeah. Awesome. It was actually really fun because having spent over 20 years in corporate, all I did was look at spreadsheets and analyze numbers and think of opportunities that way. But so doing the design work was really fun because I would start with sort of an idea board and I would pull the different pieces together, put it on like a Canva document and kind of see how it all looks together. And I design all my places. In fact, I have another place coming up, my 7th unit coming up in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Congrats. Is this one also in the Austin market then?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on your side of things in terms of like, maybe like you said, like the lazy landlord. I just want my properties to be close to me. I don't want to have to drive 2 or 3 hours away every time there's an issue or a guest locked themselves out or, all the things. Granted, I know that it can be done from afar. And I know that, hosts find much success in that. It's just that I like the personable, part of hosting and hospitality and meeting the people and like getting to know them. And I want to know what kind of wine they like before they come to the house so that I could bring them a bottle because I live in Southern Cal wine country. So, it's like, I want to do those kind of unique things for my guests and stuff. So you can't really do that, if you are not close by.
Yeah. And I know my personality so well is that if I don't like not having control of something, which is terrible, is probably my biggest weakness, right? But if a guest checks out on a Saturday and I know that trash day is on Wednesday and I don't have a trash team, like I want to just be able to go there, drive 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go take out the trash, then the next day go move it back. Like simple operational things like that is so much easier when you just live there. And it's only 15 minutes of my time. So I can do that and save myself $55 a month in trash fees. Like I don't have to hire somebody.
Right. Exactly. I love that.
And all my properties are concentrated in one little section so I can get it all done at once.
And you then become the go-to person for that market, for that town, for that city, so that neighborhood. So people know. And then if you come across a corporate contract and they need several properties, you can fulfill that need because you do have several properties and they're nearby each other. So I definitely think there's purpose behind it and it makes sense. Tell me, with either your properties or the Hestia properties, have you found any kind of above and beyond amenities, more experiential amenities that have worked well in the midterm rental space?
Yeah, I don't think we really need the experiential kind of things that they do in short-term rental space. In fact, I discourage having the pool tables and the basketball nets in the garage. People just want a normal place that they don't have to trip over these things that they don't normally use. But what I'm doing with my properties, there's a couple of them that I'm doing this to next month, is I'm upgrading and adding EV charging. So if you think about someone that drives an electric vehicle, and I just got my electric vehicle about 8 months ago. And when I travel to Houston, when I travel to Dallas, no hotel offers EV charging. And if I need to EV charge, I have to go out of my way to go find a charger and wait for the charger to be available. Because as the demand grows, there's a wait time. And then you have to charge and wait for your car. So I thought, well, in the midterm rental space, wouldn't I want to just book something with EV charging, that would make my life so much easier because time is money. And if you look at the stats, by 2030, 48% of cars sold will be EV vehicles. So I'm the kind of person that likes to be like Wayne Gretzky. I follow where the puck is going. And I really feel strongly that EV charging, I might not see the results exactly right now, but I think in the future, it'll be a great investment.
I can even seeing that being added in as kind of a standard for corporate housing. I could see that down the line. They're, more economical and things of that nature. So I can see where they're going to want, if their employees are coming into town and they're going to rent vehicles for them and things of that nature, I can see that being something that more and more corporations are going to start to look at. Like my husband, he has a vehicle from work, like a work provided vehicle. And that was a big thing when they realized he was driving back and forth an hour to 2 hours a day, not including all the driving that he has to do for work. They were like, wow, you're going up a lot in gas money here. Like there's a lot of gas money coming to your car. So they actually gave him a hybrid vehicle so that, he could stretch that dollar a little bit further. And I can see that need coming down the line, especially as it becomes more and more attainable and easier to access. So I can see that definitely being a possibility. Now, if you're going to put EV chargers in your property, because I know a lot of midterm rental operators will include in their lease like a cap at, their utilities or their electric. Obviously, if they're going to be charging with EV, are you just ensuring that there's solar provided for that EV charger, or are you charging the guest more, or are you just raising the cap? How does that work?
Yeah, so I found a company that not only has the hardware, but they could partner with hardware companies, and they can tie in your EV charger to your property management system. That way you can turn on and turn off your EV charger depending on whether or not the guest reserves the home and requires that amenity. So you can actually upcharge them for their use. And you can charge them $5 a day if you want to in the midterm rental space. Or if you have a vacation rental and you're the only one in the area that has a charger, you could charge them $40 a charge like they do at the gas stations or at the charging pumps, right? So there are ways to add amenities and make revenue from them by using, and the company called OK to Charge. OK to charge, right? And right now they're having a special where if you use the name Hestia as a discount code, you get $50 off.
Oh, awesome. We'll have to put that in the show notes.
Yep.
Okay. That's OK, letter O, the letter K, the number 2 charge.
Correct.
Awesome.
If they use Hestia as the code, they get $50 off the unit.
Okay, that's awesome. We will put that in the show notes for you guys. We're not sure how long that'll be available, but if it's in there, try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then you can call OK to Charge.
Yeah.
Not Vivian.
Yeah, don't call me.
No. So that is awesome. So then what other amenities are you looking at adding to some of your properties, whether that's part of the Hestia brand or just your own properties? What other amenities are you looking at adding that you can actually make a little bit of money off of?
I don't know. I feel like we're already fully stocked. I mean, we could add services like grocery delivery, but at the end of the day, I could hire that out to a concierge company. That's not something that I have the ability to do right now, or it's not our strength, right? It's not our core strength. Our core strength is providing the hospitality experience, getting the properties booked, and just having a great place to stay that's reliable and well kept.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Got to have reliable cleaners. It's got to be, do you include cleaning in your stays, or do you upcharge for additional cleanings like mid-stay?
So it depends. The Airbnb guest is usually not tolerant to having mid-stay cleanings. We try to, and we'll try to bake it into the price, but it's not always possible. Like I want to, because that's my eyes on the property. But luckily, most of my Airbnb guests only stay for about 2 months. So 60 days later, it's not usually disastrous. But with my insurance guests, we try to get in there at least every 30 days and the insurance company pays for it.
Yes, I think that's so important. You just don't know who's coming into the property and how well they're going to maintain it. So if you can get in there every 2 to 4 weeks, I mean, that's great, especially if you are doing an insurance relocation and that company is willing to pay for it, then by all means. Even some corporate contracts, I think you can also bake that into the lease, and just make sure that it's baked into the pricing that you're pitching to them.
Yeah. And a lot of the corporate housing companies, they want cleaning every week or every other week.
Yes, that makes sense. They don't want their employees to have to deal with it. I have had corporate contracts that did mid-stay cleanings. It was interesting because they had multiple people come through the property during their booking. So they had somebody that came out for a couple of weeks, and then somebody else was coming for a couple of weeks, and then that first person was coming back for a few more weeks. So they were definitely, looking for that additional cleaning because they were having, different people coming in and staying. Even though they kind of had their own bedrooms, it was just something that we wanted to offer to them. And so that was able to work out. And then it gave us that opportunity, like you said, just to get in and make sure that things are up to par. And if the property was vacant for a short period of time, it also gave us the opportunity to get in there without having, to bother anyone. So,
yeah. And sending my cleaners halfway through the stay has saved me a couple times. So I highly recommend it. If not cleaning, then at least send someone to change the filter.
Yes, exactly. Yes. You could always have that as a backup. They don't know when the last time the filter was changed.
Exactly. So
yes, definitely. So with the services, you haven't provided any services as of yet then? Or do you find that people do ask for services? I would assume it would be more so on the corporate side. Corporate contracts is what I'm guessing. But have you found that they do request services, and are you just pushing that out to a concierge, or they're not really even?
So far, we've had some pretty low key guests. They don't really ask for anything extra. Usually they might ask for like an early check-in, because if they have to move from one Airbnb to another Airbnb, it's hard for them to check out from one place at 11 a.m. and they can't go to the next place until 4 p.m. So they might ask to drop off stuff and then just go hang out somewhere for a few hours, right? So early check-in is our most common, and late checkout will be common as well. But other than that, it's midterm rental guests are undemanding typically. Just deliver a great product, and it's so easy.
Yes, they're so satisfied when they walk in and they're like, hey, this place is clean. It has everything I need. Then they go to put their stuff away. Like you said, they have a dresser. They don't have to throw their underwear on top of a nightstand or on top of a table.
Yeah,
I love that. What are you doing for since all of your spaces are pet friendly, is there anything special that you're doing for pets, whether it's upon the welcome or even for their stay?
So inspired by a book called Unreasonable Hospitality, whenever I get the insurance contracts, because I know specifically that those families are going through something different, like a life-changing event, I try to take a little bit of my budget and I spoil the hell out of the family. I'll get a giant basket, and I might get flowers for the property, get some snacks, get toys for each pet, get a child-friendly gift for each of the children that are staying there, like an age-appropriate, gender-appropriate gift. And, just try to spoil them. So that's what my favorite thing to do is.
I love that. Do the Hestia properties, in order to be pet friendly, do you require that they have like a dog bed, food and water bowls, that kind of thing? Or do
we don't have that. No. I mean, I'm a pet owner myself, and I know my dogs typically don't like to lay in beds that other dogs have slept in.
Okay.
But pet bowls is yes, but a lot of times they just bring their own anyways, because you never know if it's a big dog or a little dog, and it's just
true. One more thing. Yes, that's very true. So in order to be pet friendly, what you're doing is you're just ensuring that there's a fully fenced yard, that it's a safe space for an animal. And that's essentially the extent of it, it sounds like.
And poop bags.
Ah, yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. We do. We are also pet friendly, and I do ensure that I leave a leash and poop bags, because we are in a gated community. So we need to ensure that if they're out with their pets, that they're on the leash. So I always make sure I leave a retractable leash hanging if I know they're bringing a pet, along with poop bags. And then we also include black towels. So I don't want them using white towels to wipe off the dog's paws. So I use black towels, and I'll make sure there's a package of those wipes, disposable wipes for puppy paws and things like that, especially during rainy season. Unfortunately, we had a rug that was completely ruined because the dog just ran in, and you can't even fault the owner for that. I mean, the dog just ran in to get out of the rain, and his paws were muddy. What could you do? So I just got ahead of it and made sure that we had the things that were necessary for them to take care of that. So I love that. I love that you're intentional about being pet friendly. I think that that's super important, and it also gives you a leg up on the competition that's not pet friendly.
Yeah, I think just having those poop bags is kind of like a hint. You need to clean up after yourself.
Exactly.
But, the dog towels is a good one because I don't provide that today. But I mean, that's not to say I can't recycle all my old towels and make them into paw towels, right? So that's a good point.
Yeah, definitely. Just make sure that they're, not with all of the other towels, so that it's dedicated. Like, these are the towels that we want you to use for your dog.
What?
And I'll even tell guests as they're coming, as I'm welcoming them in their welcome message, it's like, hey, we've actually got this, this, and this. I like to learn the pet's names. So when we say like, welcome, Yip family, I'm going to also say like, and welcome Yip family and, your pup's name, because they're part of the family. So we like to let them know that. And then those people, like, they get special little, a link to like our favorite dog park or something along those lines. So they know where they can go to stretch the legs.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Well, that is a really good, I love what you're doing with Hestia in general, just setting standards for the midterm rental space. I personally feel like I saw a lot of either short-term rental properties where they were just no longer able to operate as short-term rentals because of jurisdictional, restrictions. And so they began to shift into the midterm rental space, but they didn't account for the fact that their avatars were shifting with that change, right? They didn't account for that. So, some short-term rentals don't have those fully stocked kitchens, and you have to have that in a midterm rental. So I have found a lot of properties that I've walked into as people have been shifting into midterm rentals, and I audit properties as well. So I have found that there are some nuances that people then have to add to their properties. And I think having a standard out there that we talk about openly and share about openly helps people to know what it is that they're supposed to do, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you've been running a successful short-term rental and then you're forced into shifting it into a midterm rental, you just don't know, until you really think those things through, unless of course there's some sort of standard out there. Have you had to?
I know that. I know how difficult it is to switch from one thing to another, even getting started, which is why I'm actually hosting 2 in-person workshops at one of my midterm rentals in September.
Oh,
we're literally going to touch and feel the property, go through what the operations and all that looks like, and how to scale, how to prepare yourself to scale and hire VAs to help you. And there's going to be SOPs that are required to do that, right? So how do you get there? We're going to talk about that in our workshop.
I love that. I'm a huge proponent of hiring help when needed. We cannot do all the things all the time. We just can't. I mean, you're a mom, I'm a mom. We have lives outside of our businesses. And then in many cases, we have multiple businesses. So our time is so valuable and so important that if there's something that you don't like doing, or you just don't have the time to do, or somebody else can be more efficient at it, that's the key. Pass that off. I feel like I just grew and had so much room to stretch my wings when I was able to bring in a VA. It made all of the difference. And I think like most people who hire VAs, they're like, man, why didn't I do this sooner? That was definitely a forehead slap moment for me. Why didn't I do this sooner? So I'm curious to know, have you guys had Hestia applications that you've had to turn away? Or are there things you've seen and people are just not willing to put these standards in their properties? Or does that happen often?
We get, every now and then, we get some investors that are just slumlords, right? They think that putting up a property with just a bunch of furniture, that they'll get it rented. And surprisingly, when I look at their reviews, they do get it rented. But then I look at their prices and they're renting at super low prices. I've gotten listings. So the vetting process is they put their property in our database. And then our team will go through each one of the listings and we'll look at the photos, we'll look at the amenities, we'll look at the reviews. And then we'll also, look at it on a map just to see where it's located. And we've received listings where the beds are unmade, where there's toys and stuff on the floor. The photo was taken with, I don't know, a BlackBerry or something. It's all grainy. Literally, when you look at the listing, you're like, this owner doesn't care. And there are people like that. There are going to be people like that. So those are the ones that we put on wait list because we're not going to refer that. I won't feel good about putting a family in there because I know for sure that if the listing looks like that, the owner doesn't care.
Right. One, there is a fee to the process to just that process of joining into the Hestia brand, right? Because like you said, you have to send out an inspector and you have to be certified and then get into the program. So I can't imagine why somebody would want to pay a fee and then send you photos when there's been no care put into it. What that would tell me is, if I was in your shoes, is I think what you're saying is, I mean, clearly, if you're comfortable sending me those photos, this is probably what most guests are going to end up walking into at some point or another, and you can't run that risk.
Yeah, absolutely not. Not when my bald head and my face and my name are behind the brand. And also because the people that sign up for Hestia, they're expecting to be part of this cream of the crop group of people. So I have a responsibility of not letting those awful properties in there, no matter how much I want to make their money. But I just can't. I don't feel good about it. It doesn't align with my values.
Agreed. I agree. It's when you mentioned bringing in an insurance relocation family who's already going through such a difficult time and how you go out of your way to, include the gifts and things like that and just make them feel special and welcome. When you think about that family who is already so unbelievably, stressed and it's very emotional and they walk into this new property and then they walk in and there's dirt everywhere, somebody's old trash, the bathroom's not clean, and they have to then go out of their way to leave or try to clean it themselves. I mean, what do you expect them to do? I don't really understand. But I totally agree with you. It's additional stress on the guest.
Yeah, the unfortunate situation that a lot of these families end up is that not only do they have to leave their own homes, but sometimes it's as tragic as losing a family member or a pet. Even if they don't, they suddenly find themselves in these general contractor positions because the insurance adjuster is just there to approve rates, but they're not there to help you get through permitting processes or go through drawings and choosing selections and managing the contractors, who's showing up and who's not. Suddenly, their plates are full, extremely full, because they have their jobs, they have their family, and now they're in this general contracting position that most of them have no experience handling. And then to throw a crappy home on top of that, where an owner is charging you a premium to stay there, it just doesn't feel good to have to deal with that. So that's why I think the basic items of having working appliances in a super clean place is at minimum.
Yes, definitely. Have you had people submit their photos? They go through the application process and it looks like it's a good fit for Hestia. And then when you send out the inspector, they find issues?
I wouldn't call them issues. So there was a case about 3 weeks ago. There was a family that was running out of time on their Airbnb and they had 4 cats. So trying to find something for them was really difficult because they needed a specific location. They had 4 cats and they had to move ASAP. Well, we found a property that we had to qualify on the spot. It wasn't exactly the house was really nice, right? Great neighborhood, nice house. But the looking at the pictures, the amenities, I was like, this might be interesting. But because we were on such a time crunch and it was in Austin, my husband and I went and did the inspection ourselves. We usually need 36 hours to bring in the inspector. So we show up and I meet the owner. The guy's been hosting midterm rental stays for 4 years. So he's not unexperienced.
Right. He's not a
newbie. When I showed up, one of the first things I love to do is open up all the cabinets. What amenities do you have? He had 4 cups, 4 glasses, 4 drinking glasses, and 2 mugs, and a cookware set. That's it.
I know. How's somebody supposed to live in that?
Right. So, but this is a prime example of why standards are needed.
Yeah.
So that when someone walks in, they're like, oh, I do have a pizza cutter. I do have a vegetable peeler, and I have forks and spoons. right? Because he had a drawer full of plastics. Fine, they'll get through whatever, but it's number one, is environmentally unfriendly. And number two, who wants to live like that? So I gave him a list, right? I gave him the shopping list. I'm like, you go. And then I went through and I looked at everything else. The trash can where it sat inside a cabinet, you could tell that they had never cleaned in there before. So I was like, you need to send your cleaner back because this place needs a deep cleaning. So he got the deep cleaner in there. We got all the amenities straightened up and they were able to move in about 18 hours later.
That's awesome. And now every guest that he has thereafter is going to have a much better experience than previous guests in most cases.
Yep.
It kind of boggles my mind that there are still investors who aren't thinking through from the guest experience point of view. I may be naive. I'm going to say a lot of people just don't know to think about it. I'm sure there are people that don't care, but I just don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. I just don't, but you don't even have to do it yourself. There's people that will come in and do it for you. Like, that's what I don't understand. You don't have to think through all the things. Like, I totally get if you're busy, but if you're going to put your property out there, it needs to provide a good guest experience. It doesn't make sense to even put your property out there and not think through how somebody's going to live in the space. So yeah, that's a no-brainer for me.
I have a little bit of a leg up though, because I stayed in corporate housing twice in my career. And then also as a kid, because my mom was a career woman and we stayed in corporate housing a lot when I was a kid. So knowing that I can walk into a property and have everything I need, I think that is a simple expectation.
Yes.
Simple standard.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I can't believe it used to be even that like short-term rentals didn't offer, basic things like that. How the short-term rental world has come so far in its design and providing amenities and then going top-notch and above and beyond. I feel like that's what we're starting to see in the midterm rental space as it sits now. I don't mean like the corporate housing space, which has been around forever and ever, but I just mean now what we're seeing in the midterm rental space. I feel like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we were seeing a lot of these properties that didn't, they weren't intentionally designed. They didn't have the practical amenities and things of that nature. Now we're starting to see that a little bit more. And hopefully with companies like Hestia, we're going to start to standardize this a little bit further and bring it back to maybe even a higher standard than what the corporate, rental world was expecting even just a few years ago.
Yeah, I think we are elevating it even more than the corporate housing world, because if you think about it, all of the Hestia homes have electronic locks. And in our service level agreement with the hosts, because we don't control their properties, but we say that every guest will have a new lock code. That is not something that corporate housing providers and apartments are doing. But because we're in the single family space and these homes are exposed to streets and whatnot, like we want to make sure that the guest feels safe, that nobody has that code but them.
Absolutely. Do you go so far as to add locks on the gates and things like that? Or is that, I'm just thinking through like a side gate. I know like our home has a side gate. We keep it locked, but we keep the keys, inside. I'm curious.
Well, I don't go that far, because I think that there's just different, there's only so much you can control when it's not your property. Right. Yeah. So it's just setting a standard. And that's not to say we can't improve that later on. But for now, there's an adjustment period, right? There's a change management period where people are shifting from short-term rentals into midterm rentals. And they've already dumped a lot of money into it. And they have to further dump more money into it, like with dressers and nightstands that they might not have already had. So, baby steps.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense. Totally makes sense. Well, that's awesome. Where do we see Hestia moving in the future? Where are we going to?
We are going to, first of all, we're going to expand the marketplace, Corporate Rentals USA. And then that's going to help us find more properties to invite into the Hestia brand. And we're starting in Texas first, because that's our home. And we have properties sprinkled everywhere else, but I think, California is a really great market for us as well. And it's going to be where my dream is that Hestia is going to be a household name. Right? Oh, you need temporary housing? You need to get something that's Hestia certified, because when you walk in there, you're going to have everything you need. It's going to be spectacularly clean. It's going to have everything you need, and you can bring your furry friends there.
I love that. I think that's great. That's exactly what the industry needs, is some sort of certification that can enforce, you know what I mean, that those standards have been met in that property. I am curious. I just thought about this. Do you require re-inspections every so often?
It'll be every year.
Every year. Okay.
Every year. And then in addition, if the client decides that they want an inspection before they move in, we can accommodate that as well for a fee.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And on corporate,
you and I both know wear and tear happens, right? So your towels might be white on the picture, but what happens 6 or 8 months later? Are they still white?
Right.
So yeah, we can do the re-inspection.
Glasses break, and then you had 12 glasses, but now you've dwindled down to 4. And I mean, especially if you are an out-of-state owner, and you aren't getting eyes on the property at least quarterly, then it is going to be beneficial to have an inspector come back in and just make sure that all of those standards are still being met. If they're coming into Hestia, my assumption would be that they have that passion about guest experience and hospitality as well. They want to provide that good experience. So it would be definitely beneficial to have at least annually somebody come through.
Yeah. We're not just accepting anybody. The first thing that they have to pass is that they have at least a year of experience, and they have 4.8 stars, and they have superhost status, right? So we're not just taking beginners. We're taking people that have demonstrated that they care to start with.
Yes.
So I'd like to think that we're really picky about who we bring in.
That's good. That's great. I didn't realize that. And that was a good point to make. What, with Corporate Rentals USA, did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay. With Corporate Rentals USA, as you start bringing on additional properties and companies, is it going to be like additional properties, or can it be a condo and an apartment, or are you sticking to just single family? So it's not necessarily that they don't have to meet the requirements of the Hestia brand. You could have any corporate rental and they'll be, correct. It's just, got it. Okay.
Yeah, there's people like, well, Vivian, how do I work with you? Then I'll have to be like, well, do you have superhost status? No, I just started. Well, do you have 4.8 stars? No, I just started. Well, do you have a single family home? No, I have a condo. So I had to find a place for those people that are falling off the Hestia brand and into a marketplace that they could develop that experience and then eventually become a Hestia home if they're a single family home. So yeah, Corporate Rentals USA, and I know it's a mouthful. We've got a solution for that. It's going to be a marketplace for all kinds of corporate rentals, right? All kinds of properties that maybe you want to become eventually a Hestia home, or there's other companies out there that already have a portfolio of homes and they're looking for a new place to advertise their properties. And there's a lot of exciting things coming for that, because we're trying to solve a lot of things that exist today in this midterm rental housing space, which is pricing transparency. With all the companies that I talk to, they're like, how do I stop getting ripped off? So there's going to be pricing transparency. There's going to be 0 security deposits. There's going to be damage insurance for the owners so that they feel comfortable doing these direct bookings. And there's also going to be property tour requests, right? So there's a lot of things that we're trying to solve in Corporate Rentals USA, that we're not just a platform for people to advertise. We're trying to solve solutions. We're trying to create solutions for problems that exist in this industry.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So for Corporate Rentals USA, we can be single. We could have we could have just one property and we're still able to list on the website, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
When will that be officially launched where anybody can list on the website? Are we there yet?
I think it's probably going to be another month, right?
Okay.
So mid-September.
Okay, not bad.
Yep.
That's awesome. I love what you're doing in midterm rentals in general, but I love that you're working on your brand, Hestia, of curated properties that set a standard and hold a standard. But then not only that, but you're looking past that standard issue and looking at all of the other issues and trying to find solutions for it, not only for hosts, but also for guests and businesses that are looking to find housing that is temporary. So
yeah,
love what you're doing. I can't wait to continue to watch everything grow. And I know it'll have to be global in no time.
I would love
corporate housing is not just a thing, here in Texas. California. I mean, we got to go all over. So
I already have people asking me to expand Hestia to Saudi Arabia, for instance. There's a city there called Riyadh, right? It's like the next Dubai. And I've already had conversations with people that like, how do we bring Hestia over there? And it's just like, oh my God, one thing at a time. So it's exciting to see what can unfold. And I think it's absolutely limitless. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Just keep grinding every day, I guess.
Yes, definitely. That is awesome. Well, anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about your brand, Hestia, your midterm rentals, or corporate rentals USA crew? We're just going to say crew. I love.
Yeah, we just say crew. Let's follow me on Instagram, Vivian Yip _official. And then also follow me on Instagram, our company, which is Corporate Rentals USA. And you can see our portfolio of beautifully curated homes and take a look at what that standard looks like. It opens like a magazine.
I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. And thank you for being so willing to share about your experiences and where you're going with them.
Thanks so much for having me.